Last Minute Blues Podcast with Donnie, Alex, Jeremy, and Jeff Burton.
You know, in one way, shape, or form, I geek out on every episode of this podcast. But today, it's another level of geek that will be attained. All right? We are joined today here in studio, of course, our homies, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN. But we are joined today by St. Louis Blues head coach Jim Montgomery, and we are so excited. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you joining us for the podcast.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm honored.
I felt like we needed like a round of applause sounded there. Like, yeah, there's some hoots and hollers.
We got to work on that. We do need to have some more sounders for something like that when we do have guests,
like
just to let them know how much we appreciate having them on.
Yeah, typically, Jim, what we do is we celebrate when Donnie introduces himself, and then we boo when Jeremy and my name is brought up. So that's how it works.
I haven't seen Donnie like this since we had David Perron on.
Yeah.
So, Donnie, you got to feel pretty good about this.
Yeah, that's good company.
Yeah, that is really good company. Stanley Cup winner. What a competitor.
Absolutely so. One of my favorite Blues of all time. But, Coach, one of the things that I wanted to start with in getting the chance to talk to you today, one of the things that I loved so much about when you came to St. Louis was when people were asking why you came here, it was very evident to me that you truly have a love for our city. You know, it was not, kind of a baloney sort of situation. You could tell that it really meant a lot to you that you were coming here to coach the Blues. Can you tell us what it is about St. Louis that you love so much that made you so happy to be coming back here to us?
It's the people. It's a great sports city. The fans and the people that live here, the community, is what I love about it. My wife is from here. My entire in-law family, they live here. I mean, Sunday barbecues, ribs, pork steaks, everything about St. Louis, the Hill, the restaurants in Clayton and the restaurants downtown, and just the different places you can go in St. Louis. And again, it's the people in the different areas, whether you're going to Soulard, and you're out in Chesterfield. It doesn't matter where you go. There's a different vibe in the different areas. And I just think the culture here of people caring about each other is something that connects me with my own family and my roots originally. And that's why I love St. Louis.
Jim, what I think is so cool about that, so I'm like the young pup on this podcast. So like the 90s area, I was 8, 9 years old when I'm watching the Blues. And so I know Jim Montgomery as the head coach in the National Hockey League, the success at Dallas, your success in college and juniors. And so talking to my dad, huge Blues fan, when it was announced that you were joining the team, I'm like, hey, Jim Montgomery's joining the Blues. And he goes, oh, the player. And I go, well, yeah, the player, but the head coach. And so it's just two different generations. He remembers Jim Montgomery, the former Blues player. I remember Jim Montgomery in that Stanley Cup run, the Dallas Stars with Boston, and now with the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, your dad's a great Blues fan, because I only have 68 games played as a Blue. Wish it would have been longer, because it was my most memorable year. Just because of the cast of characters that were here and playing in the old, some people call it the Checker Dome, some people call it the arena. It was just a fantastic place to play.
Jim, what do you remember about, because if I'm not mistaken, you were signed as a college student. You weren't drafted in the NHL. So do you remember, were there teams that were checking in? Was it more than just the St. Louis Blues throughout your time?
Yeah, you're testing my memory now, but there was 2 to 3 teams, and that was the 2 expansion teams were joining too. They could not talk to you, I think, until July 1. And I think they would have had interest. I came out of college, I was never drafted. The Blues really were quite aggressive for the money at that time, which is nothing now. But it made you feel special. I had an opportunity to sign an NHL contract, and I knew there was opportunity to make the team if I did what I had to do or showed what I could possibly show. And like I said, unfortunately, I didn't do enough to earn the right to stay here long enough.
Hey, Jim, obviously, an outstanding collegiate career. We talk about the hat trick in the third period of a big game. You've scored goals combining with Brett Hull, whether you're giving him the pass or you're finishing off the play. When you get into coaching, everybody talks about Gretzky, and I realize we're talking about a guy on a different level, but it was hard for him to kind of get guys to do what he wanted to do and play the way that he thought the game could be played. What's that like for you? You're such a hard worker, diligent in the details, and what's it like as a coach to get them to do the things that you were accustomed to doing in your career?
Well, I think the advantage of when you're a player that is not uber talented like a Gretzky, a Bobby Orr, a Brett Hull, a Brendan Shanahan. You think of all the great players that are going to be playing tomorrow night, USA Canada game. You know, I had to really learn the details. And the other, I guess, advantage I have you're not when you're a role player in the NHL, you know what it's like to be in and out of lineup. So you can relate to the players that are in and out of lineup. When I was in the American League, I was the go-to player. I was, an all-star a few years there, one of the leading scorers. So I know what it's like to be a premier player, and I was that in college. So I know what it's. And I played right wing, I played center. I didn't play defense. I can escape backwards, but but I really honed in on the details that I learned from every coach. And I think that is why I think I've been able to have success because they can relate to every player in the role they are, whether they're a premier player or not, and how important their role is to the team's success.
Yeah, it's got to be, sorry, Donnie, it's got to be amazing to me when you're talking to a college player, a junior hockey player, or even an NHL player, because people reference, at least I do, I was 3 years old at the time, but I go back because I'm a hockey nerd, that University of Maine team that went 42, 1-2, like the team that Jim Montgomery was a part of lost once. That's wild.
Incredible.
And you just reminded them of it.
Yeah, of course. Anytime I can remind you of those stats, I got to.
Listen, it's when you're part of a championship team, and it doesn't matter at what level. When you hear about it again, it just brings back, it floods memories of joy, of the hard work, of the adversity you have to overcome. We only lost one game that year, and it was about 34 games into the season, and we were up 6-2 on Boston University.
Oh my gosh!
And we ended up losing 7-6 in overtime because they were our rival. We wanted to beat them 20-2, and we learned from that. And I honestly believe now, having been a coach, the adversity we learned and the pain we suffered in that one loss, we didn't want to taste defeat again. And I think it helped us. I think because in the Frozen Four, we were down 3-0. And in the final game, we were down 4-2 heading into the third. I don't think if we had faced that adversity, we would have been as mentally tough enough. And that's why I think every championship team faces adversity.
Coach, what's your favorite part about being a coach? And then on the flip side of that, what's your least favorite part? I know it's pretty simple questions, but it's just something I'm very curious about when it comes to doing the job that you do.
The favorite part is trying to get a group of men, because that's who I deal with. But when you're a coach, for me, it's trying to get everybody to be like-minded and to be committed to the common team goal. Do everything for the betterment of the team. And that is in itself, it is the most difficult task to achieve. Just because, players are playing for contracts, they're playing for next year. Some of them are in the beginning of a 7-year deal. So motivating how you get every player to buy into their role and also to own the moment, and be selfless so that your team can achieve its ceiling. I do think every team has a ceiling of success. Not every team is built to win a championship, but every team should try and attain and get as close as possible to its ceiling. The least favorite thing would probably be the lack of sleep that you get with the travel and having to be up and be prepared and get ready. It's just, you can't help it. Your mind doesn't shut off.
Right.
And so you may be like, oh, I got a chance to sleep till 7:30 this morning, but invariably you're up by 6. That's sleeping in. And it seems like you drink more coffee than you should to be able to sustain your energy.
Monty, I always think of the coaches after the games. They're going back to the film room and pouring over it to see what they can correct for the next game or what have you. I think Craig Berube used to beat us out of the building, beat the media. He would do the press conference and then make a right out of there instead of a left. What a great coach I'm sure he was to work with. But yeah, I get a kick out of, maybe some coaches put too much time into it and spend too many hours working on the film and getting ready for the next day's practice. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to have balance, and that's something I learned from Chief. Was you're not going to solve all the problems that night. Sleep on it. We're all sharp hockey minds, and let's come to work tomorrow, and we'll figure out, and we'll continue to get better the next day, and that gives you a better, healthy balance.
So I don't want to jump too terribly far from hockey here, but Coach, since you were using the rock and roll references in the press conferences, I have been legitimately dying to know your very favorite bands. What do you like to listen to? And I would assume that the classic rock is sort of kind of your jams, because that's what you were throwing at us in the press conference. But I'd love to know who you like, who you listen to, who are your favorites, that sort of thing. And again, I hate to jump off of hockey, but I'm a music guy before a hockey guy, so I kind of gotta.
Yeah, it's a good question. I invariably, when having discussion with groups, I like to ask the question, if you could see any three people live, uh, who would you see, and dead or alive? And for me, U2 is my number one band. I have been. I think they put their hooks into me, I think, when I was an eighth grader with U2 War. And I love to be entertained. And some of the best entertainers I've seen have been John Cougar Mellencamp, AC/DC. I would love to have seen Led Zeppelin in their prime. I would have loved to have seen Elvis Presley in his prime.
Absolutely so. Those are, AC/DC is one of the greatest live bands that I have ever even seen. Like, I went to that show at the Enterprise Center about 10 years ago, and I left feeling as though that I got my ass kicked in the best way humanly possible. Like, it was just a clinic on rock and roll. It was just so amazing. What is the best live show that you have ever seen, Coach Montgomery?
The most entertained I've ever been was Bruno Mars. I saw him 3 years ago. And
where at, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it's a small venue in Boston.
Wow.
It's called the what's it called? The MGM. MGM. It's a small venue. It's only like six to 10,000 people.
Wow.
He was incredible. Kid Rock, incredible. And live, and also the country singer Garth Brooks, incredible.
Oh,
yeah. Jerry, you saw Garth Brooks, didn't you?
He's great.
I've never seen that, but I've heard that concert's incredible. Yeah. That's awesome. And I got to say, too, on the AC/DC side, and I promise we'll get to a couple hockey questions for Jim here, but on the AC/DC side, Curbs is a massive AC/DC fan, and like one of his favorite hockey songs is Thunderstruck. I know this from doing pre and post with him for like the last 10 years. When Jim, when you said Thunderstruck was going to be the song of choice, I don't know if I've seen Curbs as excited as that moment waiting for everybody to walk out the Thunderstruck.
Yeah, and I just wish we would have had success, because I was getting such great recommendations from the fans, and it would have been great. We could have been just gone on a run of great rock and roll songs.
You absolutely.
I was waiting for the next one and the next one, and then once they lost a couple,
I know I was so bummed out, but I can understand, like, from your perspective, Jim. It's like, man, I can't keep doing this when losses follow, but God, there was so much excitement for it. Well, Jim, I know we only got a couple more minutes with you, and we truly appreciate your time hopping on with us just to talk hockey and give our fans an opportunity to see you in person on our YouTube channel. But I did want to ask a hockey question to you, because you mentioned the Four Nations tournament. It has been one heck of a tournament watching these teams play. But, man, one thing that I've continued to ask myself is when you watch these superstar players, you get the most excitement possible. But from an NHL perspective, for a long time it felt like in the NHL that you can have superstars, but pack mentality is what wins hockey games. And then this season, or at least the last couple of seasons, it feels like the teams that are having success have those superstars, the Connor McDavids, the Matthew Tkachuks, the Brady Tkachuks. From an NHL coach's perspective, Jim, can teams still win if they don't have superstars in the NHL?
Well, it's a great question. Historically, if you look at the Stanley Cup winners, they usually have some of the superstars of the game. If you look at, the recent, say, 15 years, the LA Kings had Kopitar and Doughty. They had Quicken Nets. Pittsburgh, Malkin, Crosby, obviously, and then the Chicago had Kane and Taves. But the one common thing I would say is the Blues of 2019 are probably the best example of a pack mentality. And I would think that all the championship teams, including the Panthers last year, who clearly have some superstars, but the pack mentality that they had, how hard they played for each other. And I think nobody embodied that more than 2019 Blues. They just wore you down with the relentless work ethic, shift in, shift out. And it was incredible to watch. I was coach of another team at the time and lost in game 7 and was witnessed it. They wore us down in that 7th game. It wasn't for Ben Bishop, it wouldn't have gone to double overtime. It would have been over after the second because they had worn us down.
Well, Coach, tomorrow night, Four Nations face-off, 7 o'clock. We're watching it, U.S. Canada. Can't wait for it, all right? Now, I know that you are not a fan of Provel cheese, which, we can talk about it.
Ripped it.
We can talk about that.
I love it in salad. I love it in salad.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. But you're sitting down tomorrow night to watch the Four Nations face-off, all right? You know of all the great pizza in St. What are you going to feast on tomorrow night when you are watching this game? Or let's just say, hypothetically, any big game that you're excited to sit down and watch. What are we doing? What are we eating, Coach?
Well, if it's pizza, I'm a big fan of Vito's Pizza. So I'm a New York style pizza guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one I found the best one I've enjoyed in St. Louis. And I know tomorrow night I'm going to take the staff out for dinner and we're going to watch the game all together. So I'm not going to say where.
Smart. Good idea. Smart.
Yeah. But it's one of my favorite restaurants in St. Louis. Great food, great people that own it, and service and the food is outstanding.
Awesome.
Whenever I hear questions, when Donnie asks the question, what's your favorite pizza place? I think of a guy in Jim's spot there. What if he says this place or that place, and then the next time he goes into another pizza place, we're not your favorite.
Or if he throws out Pizza Hut and you're like, really? I didn't expect that one.
Yeah, like how do you come up with the right answer there? And Jim, by the way, I'm going to be watching the game tomorrow night as well, but it'll be a salad because Kelly Chase can't walk past me without saying, hey, buddy, the first 100 pounds is the hardest.
That's beautiful.
God bless Chase.
I tell you, one of the funniest guys I've ever been in a hockey room was.
Unbelievable. Hey, we want to make sure that we touch on the Blues here before we let you go. And I know I did a 10-question Q&A with you a few days ago. And look, everybody is familiar with the situation here. It's going to be a challenge to make the playoffs, but you got to feel good about what you're building here and the players that are here and the players that are coming in. Just what do you want to see from your team? I know the big word is consistency. That popped up a lot during the 10-question Q&A the other day. But what do you want to see from this Blues team? Playoffs, no playoffs, whatever, down the stretch?
No, you talk about that, pack mentality. I want our Blues fans in this city to see a pack mentality where we're playing hard for each other, we're playing for each other, and we care about each other. And if we're competing like that, and our thoughts are about what's best for the team, I think the results will take care of itself, and I think we'll gain the momentum we need to gain
Jim,
for the rest of this year and moving forward.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Jim, but I just had one more on that lines as well, just because I know a lot of Blues fans are excited about these younger players, guys like Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg, Zach Bolduc. And I am curious from a coaching perspective how you balance the usage of them in games to where you want to make sure that they get that ability to play in big situations and understand the capacity of playing in those scenarios, but also not risking overexposing them in certain areas on the ice.
Well, I'm a big believer if someone's playing well, you play them. And I think a great example of that is you said Dylan Holloway. I think before I got here, I believe his minutes were averaged just under 14. And I think since I've been here, because of how well he might have played 14 minutes the first 3 to 5 games, but he has become a 16 and a half to 17 minute player. And how that happens is their own confidence, giving them the opportunity to succeed, and then them rewarding to team to the team playing the right way, be having second and third effort. And it's just like not everyone's going to be on top of their game. And that's why it's really important when, say, someone who plays a lot of minutes, whether it's Kyrou or Thomas, they're off their game and they're not playing 19 and a half minutes to say that game. Well, someone like a Bolduc, or if Pareko's off his game, Broberg can, he's playing really well. He's going to go from 20 minutes to 22 and a half that night. Bolduc's going to go from 12 to 15. Someone needs to eat up those minutes. And then once they establish and they continue to do it over and over, now they move up, and that's where their minutes but that's where their minutes continue to grow. Like Holloway's did. And the last thing I would say with that is you always have to be responsible to the team. So it doesn't matter who it is. If you're not playing the right way for the team, as a coach, you have to hold people accountable to that. And mistakes that cause odd man rushes, that cause goals against, or cause loss of momentum within a game, as a coach, you have to hold players accountable to that, whether you're your first line player or it's a young player or it's a veteran player, whatever the case may be.
Well, Coach Montgomery, I cannot obviously speak for the entire Blues fan base, but I can say that as we are on this retool, rebuild, whatever the hell we're going to call it these days, that we are on, it is so reassuring to have a head coach such as yourself behind the bench. It really does kind of give us a sense of calm on some nights where maybe we would not have that sense of calm. So we are absolutely thrilled that you're here, and we really appreciate you joining us for the Last Minute Blues podcast today, Coach Montgomery. We really, really appreciate it. We've had a great time with you, and hopefully we can have you back in the future.
Guys, great to be on. Look forward to the next time.
And Jim,
appreciate the kind words.
Jim, Donnie's going to send you a Provel pizza at some point just so you can enjoy that.
Well, I tell you what, my in-laws will mow down on it. They love it.
That's awesome. Jim, thank you so much, man. It's great to catch up with you.
Cheers, guys.
Take care.
Thanks.
Here you go. Jim Montgomery.
Blues head coach.
Oh.
I'm not getting as nervous doing these as I used to. Maybe I
Turned into
should
a
be.
pro.
Dude, that was awesome. How great was he, man? One of the things about him that I appreciate so much since he's gotten here, and I understand the position in which that he is in and where the team is right now, but he is so positive and so upbeat all of the time. So even when, we've hit a lull in the last couple of weeks, coach is keeping us in the right mental game to make sure that we're staying positive.
Well, he just texted me and said, I've never met somebody more upbeat than me. so he's talking about you instead of him.
I was waiting, though, when he was listing off his favorite concerts, I was waiting for Rascal Flatts. He did mention them. So I'll have to
he
text
obviously
him,
doesn't listen.
send him the album, and then I guarantee he'll be back with
You
me.
too. What do you think about his selection there, Donnie?
I mean, that's amazing. They are one of, there's a few bands that I've seen in my life where they just sort of have this aura about them when they perform. And the last time that U2 was here, they ended up playing the Enterprise Center. They were supposed to be here a couple of years prior and play the Dome, but the show got canceled because there was some civil unrest going on. So the show didn't end up happening. So fast forward a couple of years, and I almost kind of feel like it's a play down for them to play the Enterprise Center a bit. You know what I mean? Because on different parts of the world, they're playing for 50,000, 100,000 people. But they were so great that night. So freaking amazing. And I've seen them a couple of times, and they're just one of the best bands ever. So I completely get that.
I was a little surprised by Kid Rock. Has anybody seen Kid Rock in person?
Yes.
So I have not, and I don't know, are those concerts legit?
Well, a couple things here. When I saw him, it was very early on. So just to put it into perspective, his sidekick, he had the sidekick, Joe C.
Oh, okay.
Remember Joe C?
Okay, yeah.
I have not seen them since that guy passed away.
Wow.
Okay, so it's been a while. And when I saw them, it was very apparent that they were playing to a backing track. And so Donnie was out. I did not enjoy that show. But that was very early in the Devil Without a Cause run. So he has been back a bazillion times with a huge band, backup singers, the whole thing. But I did not appreciate my first Kid Rock experience.
I like how, if you put $1 million on the line, I couldn't tell you whether there's a backing track on there. Donnie, takes 1 second. Yep, that's backing track.
And that's the Donnie Pro.
Well, it's not even that. It's just, man, as a guy that grew up loving rock bands and rock music and specifically punk rock music, I mean, even even the country music that like my grandparents would play for me. You know what I mean? I mean, those were legit. I mean, those were legit musicians. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So like
writing their own music.
I want to be able to appreciate those guys no matter what they're doing, if I dig the music or not.
It's Donnie the Pro right there.
Hey, are we going to podcast again this
I
week?
think we might need to. There's a lot of hockey going on.
Yeah, absolutely so.
Maybe Friday?
Yeah, that sounds a good
Post
idea.
Four Nations, return, and then, of course, we'll get into the rumor mill.
So it'll be
yeah.
post Four Nations, so we will know who the winner Thursday night is. What are the predictions here so we can poke at the people who make the wrong prediction?
Oh, a wrong prediction. I'm going to be right. So I'll let you guys go first. The wrong ones.
I think, I don't know.
Finland. Oh, wait, no, sorry.
The thing that Hagel said yesterday, boy, that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Yeah.
When he said, we're not doing this for TV, we're doing it for our country. Whoa, baby.
Did you hear what Matthew came back and said today?
No.
I think it was today, yeah. So Hagel said something about, we don't need the group chats or whatever.
Yeah.
And Matthew said today, he goes, well, then maybe some guys over there don't like each other because they don't have group chats. So
All right.
This is why this tournament works. They hate each other.
I mean, I think that the U.S. wins. I just quite frankly think that they're a better team.
Yeah. I will say it's going to be low scoring. I will say, because I predict all final scores all the time if people listen to our pregame, and I'm never correct. I will say it is a 3-1 final score with the victor being USA.
USA, wow. All right, now let me see what you guys think about my strategy here. So we had to predict this for The Athletic. I did this a couple days ago. And I am always wrong about my predictions. Always. Doesn't matter. NFL, whatever. Wrong. So
That's why JR is a great bettor.
yeah, that's why I got out of it. No, I never got in it. But I put, for my ballot at The Athletic, Canada.
Why do you hate America, JR?
I just told you because I'm always wrong.
Okay.
And I put Sidney Crosby as the MVP. So we know that the U.S. is going to win based on, I'm either going to be
you got
absolutely...
it down.
But also, too, if I'm Team Canada and I'm going in there tomorrow night, and I know that my anthem is probably going to get booed, which I would assume that it probably will. I don't like it, but I would. That would fire me up, dude.
Yeah.
Like that would. I mean, I feel like this is going to be a tremendous game, but I almost kind of feel like we're not going to see the fights because the teams are going to want to win, right?
Yeah, well, and Brady and Matthew are dinged up, to say the least, and not saying that they wouldn't do it even if they were, but like you need everybody to win that hockey game.
Yeah,
if you
need
want
to be on the ice. Like I get it the other night, like that was a statement, and it probably, obviously it set the tone, but maybe they don't win that game if that doesn't happen.
And they didn't
early
have
on.
Cale Makar, correct, in that game that they played?
They did not. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can't take yourself out for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe it happens. I guess now that I said it won't happen, it will. But you can't have those top guys out of the lineup.
I will say this too. I don't know if you guys saw this earlier today, the Bill Guerin stuff. So it was written about, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, that basically said Bill Guerin in an interview during the game said that Canada is going to be America's 51st state. And so they said that Bill Guerin had said it. And then today it's come out that Bill Guerin's like, yeah, I never said that. He's like, we're excited to play in this game, but I never said those words. And now you've got different people that were posting about it, of how pissed off they were, saying like, oh yeah, I went back and listened to the interview and he never stated that. I think Canada was trying to get some poster board material from Bill Guerin, and that blew up in the face. And now it's like, oh God, this thing is going to be one of the, I don't know what the numbers are in terms of like the record for most watched game, but there's going to be millions on a million.
But if the other night was 5 million, this has got to be 8-10 million,
gotta
right?
Be.
I mean, you would have anybody that is watching that game on Saturday night is watching again on Thursday night and then is telling friends. Yeah. You're having people over.
Yeah. You're doing what Jim Montgomery's doing. You're putting together a party with pizza and beer and wings, and like you're enjoying it.
And you know what? And guys, if you remember before the break, I was kind of meh. It's not that I wasn't looking forward to it. I was excited to watch it because there would be some hockey while there was the break. But I was not super fired up. And then the game started, and I was like, oh, my God, this is amazing. Like I was caring about Sweden and Finland having a rivalry, for Christ's sake.
You weren't alone. I mean, there were a lot of people that thought that. And my only thing was, and I didn't remember you saying that, but my only thing is that I don't know how you could put on your country's jersey and not go all out.
Totally.
Like, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
You could put an all-star jersey.
Yeah. Right. There's a lot of people that either do that or opt to not play in the all-star game and go to Cancun instead.
Okay, and seriously, never another NHL All-Star game ever again.
No, you can't.
Never again.
Especially 3-on-3 NHL All-Star.
Can you imagine going from watching Four Nations this year to if they were going to do an All-Star game next year?
Yeah,
oh, my God.
There'd be nobody watching.
I mean, not at all. Like
No.
15, 16 people.
No,
People
especially
put the
now that
TVs
they're
on
going to
with
have the World Cup of Hockey every other year. I mean, you're going to have best on best every other year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the way, and you know what, and I'm not, and what I'm about to say, I don't want to piss anybody off, but I think it's just the reality of the situation. How do I say this best? I think with the way global politics are going as of right now, I would think that there is a very realistic chance that Russia would be back in the fold for the World Cup and then in the Olympics. I would just think that is probably not very far away from happening.
Yep. I agree.
Podcast headline, Donnie gets political.
Donnie loves Russia. That's what I heard.
I just danced around that as much as
You
I
did.
danced around anything else.
And then Jared and I just ished on it and said, Donnie loves Russia.
We're gonna
Welcome
have
to the podcast.
Edit out the 15-second pause before he said global politics.
I felt uncomfortable. I'm like, man, where's he? Is he going to start crying on this?
I just wanted to try to be as, you know what, forget it.
He just interviewed Jim Montgomery. He did a great job.
He did a phenomenal
A
job.
gigantic thank you to Blues coach Jim Montgomery for stopping in on this episode of the Last Minute Blues podcast. I'd like to say some kind words about my co-hosts, but I don't know. They don't seem to ever have any for me. No, I'm just kidding. For Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, Alex Ferrario, my dude from 101 ESPN. We'll be back on Friday with another episode of the Last Minute Blues Cup podcast. Jeff Burton, we missed the hell out of you. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast, and let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast. Hear more at 1057thepoint.com.